Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Good for Bitcoin. My name is Brandon, social media manager at Trust Machines, joined by my co-host, Kate. Happy Friday, Kate.
Happy Friday, Brandon. How you doing?
Busy week.
Yeah.
Very busy. We're going to get into all the things. I think biggest thing that I personally have been working on this week is all of this Zealy stuff. So that is kind of the big news. Both of us have been working very, very hard on prepping for this big Stacks DeFi-wide Zealy campaign kicked off on Monday. And it's a collaboration between Lether and Xverse and Bitflow, Hermetica, Granite, Zest, Stacking DAO, Velar. Everyone is participating. It's been pretty awesome so far. And yeah, you shared some of the numbers here if you want to recap how many people have gone through this campaign so far.
Yeah, this is pretty cool. So in total, we have 21,000 members. That's basically people who have joined our community on Zealy. Of that, 17,500 have entered the onboarding quests, and then we have 403 members in season 1. So they're slowly trickling in. We've had a lot of engagement in the Discord, people asking questions and kind of like getting familiar with Stacks, which has been pretty cool. We've had some lessons learned, which is also good. But yeah, it's been a busy week. We've been working on this for months, as we've mentioned. And so to finally see it happening now it's awesome.
Yeah. It's been really cool to just watch the numbers just keep going up in terms of like how many people are completing everything. Like you said, there's over like 17,000 people that have like started doing quests, which is really cool. And one thing that's really neat is there's all these, for one, in order to kind of do pretty much anything, you need to complete what we're calling like an onboarding kind of quest, which basically means that you need to either you need to download either Lether or Xverse and connect your wallet. And you need to have at least 10 STX in that wallet. Anybody that's participating needs to have a wallet. And just based on the people that I've seen, like looking at some of the on-chain metrics, a lot of these wallets like are new wallets. Like they don't have a bunch of like old Stacks transactions. So that was the goal, right? Is to bring a lot of new people into Stacks and give them just a wide range of things to do and things to check out. Just the fact that we have so many DeFi apps that are part of this, you really get to just get a really great preview of all the really awesome apps and things to do in the ecosystem. And another thing that's really cool is all of these partnerships, like everybody, Bitflow, Hermetica, Granite, Zest, Stacking DAO, Velar, spent some time to actually create custom APIs for this campaign. Basically what that means is we're not just like linking you to go follow Granite, right? We're actually measuring on-chain activity. So we can see through this campaign if you deposited Bitcoin or SBTC into Granite, or if you took out a loan on Zest, or all these different things. So we can actually measure this is actually happening on chain. So that's the goal, is that all of this activity is going to result in actual on-chain activity, actual TVL, and a few more things as well. We have stable coins. That's going to be a really big focus for the next campaign that launches in like a week and a half or so. And that's also a really big focus, right? We want more stablecoin activity on Stacks, and I'm really excited for that one. So yeah, that's what's coming. But it's just, again, been really cool so far to see how many people are getting on board with this. And it's not over, right? It's going to keep growing. So it's been really cool.
Yeah, it's such an unlock to have these API integrations to actually verify people are doing things on chain, because one of our biggest struggles, I guess, is being like, leading communities and trying to grow communities has been, how do you actually reward users and people who are like using your products, and how do you verify that? And so the combination of Zeely with the APIs has been a huge unlock, as I said. So yeah.
Yeah, and the rewards for doing these quests are huge.
They're pretty good compared to a lot of the communities on Zeely. Like we're giving some juicy rewards out there, because at the end of the day, we are asking people to come in and trust our products and use them and, spend their money, and we want to make it worth it. And yeah, it's I think we've done a good job with the reward structure.
Yeah, many ways to participate. There's like people that are getting more rewards for like referring people. Mm-hmm. There's people that are getting rewards for maybe putting in a little bit more money than others. There's people that are getting rewards for just going in and doing the quests every single day and claiming their points. And there's a lot of different ways to participate, which is also really cool. So, but yeah, like you said, also some learnings as well that we'll definitely be carrying into the future seasons. That'll, I think, make things a little smoother. But, we're only in week 1, so it's all good.
It's part of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, so far so good. But yeah, we have a lot of news to get into this week. Another busy week, especially on the public company side. I feel like there was everybody announcing Bitcoin treasury strategies. So yeah, we can start to get into that. First one is MetaPlanet. They purchased 1,111 BTC. There's a few MetaPlanet news items here. So I guess they approved this capital contribution of up to $5 billion for their U.S. subsidiary. For one, they have a U.S. subsidiary. I don't think that we mentioned that. And a couple of weeks ago, we also missed this. They announced that they were moving their U.S. headquarters to Miami, and they did a little video with Mayor Suarez about it.
Yep.
And yeah, MetaPlanet aims to own 210,000 BTC by the end of 2027. And I think I saw just today, or maybe it was yesterday, that they've also raised $517 million to buy more Bitcoin. MetaPlanet's doing a lot to catch up to Strategy. But Strategy also purchased 245 BTC this week. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's funny. If you look at what MetaPlanet is, it's like a small Japanese hotel. Mm-hmm. Boutique or something. Yep. And Strategy is old tech, and they're just leading the charge. And yeah, it's pretty cool to see them just adopt these Bitcoin strategies and just go full throttle with them.
Yeah, it's on one hand it's weird. We talk about some of these companies, Strategy is one example, right? They have this huge business intelligence company that's what they were forever. And then you have these MetaPlanet that was kind of like a hotel chain or a hotel company. Then you have some of these other ones that are healthcare companies. And mm-hmm. What it's important for these, you can't, as a company, you can't just hold Bitcoin, because they're doing all these different strategies to acquire more Bitcoin. In a lot of cases, they're having to pay an interest on, they're doing it in kind of safer ways than they're not doing fraud or anything like that. But yeah. They're having to acquire Bitcoin in these different ways, and they're having to pay an interest on those maybe loans that they're taking out to acquire, more Bitcoin or different things. So you need an operating business that is generating enough revenue to be able to pay off those loans or pay off the interest so that you can continue to operate. So it makes sense that these companies kind of have that kind of side gig, I guess, just to continue servicing the debt.
Yep.
But it is kind of interesting.
I watched this podcast with Eric Semler from Semler Scientific, and it was on, I think he was talking with Natalie Brunell, and she was just asking him about how did this start, because they were also a healthcare company. And he was saying he had been tracking this concept of zombie companies. So it's companies that were kind of undervalued or weren't performing, but they still had some potential. And that's when he started hearing Michael Saylor talk about this concept and how Bitcoin was this lifeline for companies that are in the same position. And something clicked in his brain. And so then he brought it back to his board, and he was trying to explain it to them, being just hear me out. And then they went through multiple long discussions and lots of research, and ultimately decided this was not a risky move. It was a very smart move for them. But it's kind of interesting to hear some of the processes that companies will take if they're in a certain position, especially those that would classify as a zombie company.
Yeah, definitely. I think we talked about it last week, how, it's almost like when you look at these public companies, like public companies have like a fiduciary duty, right?
Yeah.
To maximize earnings for their shareholders, and like not having Bitcoin on their balance sheet is kind of a violation of that. So just makes sense.
Makes sense. We have another big announcement from Pomp.
Yeah. Anthony Pompliano, he has launched, he's getting into the public company arena, and he has launched ProCap Financial Incorporated under the ticker CCCM. They raised over $750 million, which, according to Pomp, was the largest initial fundraise in history for a publicly traded Bitcoin treasury company. Quite a lot of money. In the press release, it says ProCap will focus on acquiring Bitcoin for its balance sheet while also developing products and services to produce revenue and profit from the Bitcoin on our balance sheet over time, which is interesting. So maybe they'll loan it out or do some other kind of services there to, again, they need to be able to like service the debt, right? So they need to be able to find ways to actually generate revenue as part of their company. One thing that's really interesting though, so this got announced on like Monday or Tuesday. And since then, this week, they've already made 2 really big Bitcoin purchases.
Yeah.
So yeah, one day after the announcement, they purchased 3,724 BTC. And then yesterday they purchased 1,208 BTC. And I guess this is different. Like these other companies have not been able to do it this way. And I guess it's like some way that they structured their filings allowed them to be able to make purchases this quickly, even though it hasn't like fully kind of gone through, the SEC approval, whatever yet. When you look at like 21, for example, like they announced, their big thing with like Tether, and they haven't made any announcements since then. So yeah, it's just interesting that, these companies are finding different ways, different strategies to start acquiring Bitcoin as quickly as possible.
And then we have another new buyer of Bitcoin.
Again, random companies, right? Luxury car restorer ECD Automotive Design has apparently secured a $500 million equity facility to launch a Bitcoin treasury. So we'll have to see how that goes. GameStop also raised $450 million to, the wording that they usually give, which is like to make purchases that align with our like investment strategy. But really that just means like to buy Bitcoin. So GameStop will also be buying Bitcoin seemingly soon. Bakkt Holdings has also filed an investment policy update saying that it may buy $1 billion in Bitcoin. Do you remember Bakkt and like the hype around Bakkt like several years ago?
No, I don't. Tell me the story.
Bakkt was like, I think this was like 2017, 2018, like 2019, like that era. Bakkt was trying to be the company that was going to like bring ETFs to the US, and they were going to be like the first company. So everyone was like paying very close attention because I think Bakkt went public, and I don't know, they were just like really talking like a big game, and then it never happened. And I don't even know if they have an ETF now. Like I don't really know actually what Bakkt is doing these days. But they were kind of more on the institutional side.
Okay.
But they're back. Bakkt is back.
Bakkt
they're trying to buy more Bitcoin.
We're so backed.
Yeah. And big Circle news. So Circle's just been on an absolute tear since, going on their IPO. CRCL, which is the Circle ticker, flipped USDC in market cap this week. It also flipped Coinbase in market cap, which is pretty interesting. There's a couple threads about it. But basically, Coinbase actually receives about 50%, or not about, they receive 50% of USDC revenue as part of the original sort of center consortium. When USDC first was launched, it was under this sort of joint, it's almost like a joint venture between Coinbase and Circle. And it was called Center. Basically, every, every dollar, of USDC, right, is backed by like a real dollar. And those dollars are earning interest, and that's how Circle is making money, or USDC is making money. So 50% or half of that interest is going to Coinbase, and half of that interest is going to Circle. So it's interesting that, obviously Coinbase has many more products than just this, right? And meanwhile, Circle has a higher market cap than Coinbase. So just a little interesting.
I would imagine a lot of it is around, it's hype around the narrative of what like USDC could become, and if it's going to become the default digital US dollar rail. Maybe people are like speculating on that, because if it is, then they're integrated into banks and fintech and DeFi, L2s, like all of this. So like maybe people are betting more on that than the economics behind it. And that's kind of my theory, but
yeah, I mean, Circle kind of stands to benefit the most, I guess, from like this Genius bill, getting enacted.
Yeah.
So yeah, that certainly has part of it. But again, like Coinbase is still earning 50% of the income from USDC. So I don't know. I tweeted about it, I think on Monday or something, which is like, either like Circle is like overvalued or like Coinbase is undervalued. And we don't give financial advice here, but that was my conclusion, at least.
Well, we're about to find out.
I guess we will. But yeah, also in Coinbase news, they also had an all-time high in their stock price this week, which is pretty big for them. And there's some new tweets from Brian Armstrong about Coinbase buying Bitcoin every week. Did you see this? Yeah. So for David Bailey the other day kind of sent out a tweet like basically congratulating Coinbase for getting to a new all-time high, right? Which is good for them. And David Bailey was like, it's really great to see this. Now, like, when are you going to become like a Bitcoin treasury company?
Yeah.
And then Brian Armstrong quote tweeted David Bailey's tweet and was like, hey, we're actually buying Bitcoin every week.
Interesting.
Which, yeah, it is interesting.
I think they only have around 9,000 in their treasury.
Yeah, I was going to pull up
BTC.
the numbers. So I don't know, like, they didn't give a lot of information other than like, yeah, we're buying it every week.
Mm-hmm.
Like how long have you been doing this for? There's a lot of questions. When you look at, like these different, references like Bitcoin treasuries, bitcointreasuries.net is this website here. They, if you look at like the chart, right, it's not really going up at all. Like it says that, yeah, they've had kind of around 9,000 range for a long time, for years. So who knows? We don't see the number going up here. Hopefully they'll provide some like proof. I mean, they have to. They're a public company, right? So if they're acquiring, they have to reveal that. But we're not seeing it yet, so I don't know.
I have seen a video of him saying that he thinks Bitcoin will be the world reserve currency, which is a big statement to say. But I did not. Yeah. Anyway,
so,
it would make sense that they would start buying more Bitcoin, but it's kind of surprising that they are not buying more, honestly.
I know. And they were so early, right? Like they could have been acquiring Bitcoin for such a long time. Yeah, I remember I've heard interviews with like the CEO of like Fold that went, public recently as well. And like Fold has, I think, more Bitcoin on their balance sheet than Coinbase does. And they're much smaller than Coinbase and haven't been around for as long as Coinbase. Yeah, Coinbase has a lot of catching up to do, but maybe they'll do some different, treasury acquisition things, right? They certainly are generating a lot of revenue from trading activity and things on their exchange that they can use to service some debt to buy some Bitcoin. So we'll see. But yeah, let's get into some other news. First one is the Texas bill, SB-31, has been signed by Governor Greg Abbott. We talked about that getting passed in the House and the Senate a couple weeks ago, but it got signed by the governor this week. Texas has now become the first U.S. state to establish a publicly funded Bitcoin reserve.
Woo, very exciting.
Yeah. And I think they're going to announce, or they announced that they're going to allocate like $10 million as their like first Bitcoin purchase.
Yeah, that's pretty cool that they're actually going to be purchasing and not just stockpiling, basically.
Yeah, we talked previously on previous shows about both Arizona and New Hampshire have passed their own Bitcoin bills, but they have not funded those reserves yet. So Texas seems like they're going to be the first state to actually have Bitcoin on their balance sheet.
They've also mentioned that they're willing to grow their reserve through forks. I'm not entirely sure what they mean by this. Airdrops, which I thought was a very funny one to include, and donations. But what I did like is they are putting in legal protections to keep it insulated from basically general budget spending, I think. So in case that there's shifting budget priorities due to politics, it won't be affected.
That's definitely nice. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You also put a note in here about Texas being huge.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I was just kind of like looking into this and I realized Texas has the eighth largest economy in the world. So it's bigger than countries like Russia, up here in Canada, Italy. And it's the second biggest in America after California. But I just honestly didn't comprehend the size of the Texas economy. And I mean, I think that this is just like such a clear signal when an economy that big is moving towards Bitcoin. So pretty
Yeah,
cool.
Texas is a very unique state. They're also just like land mass is just really big.
Yeah.
I think maybe Alaska is maybe bigger.
Yes.
But
I think so.
Texas is very large, and they're we've had Rena on the show many times. Their grid is kind of self-sustaining as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, Texas kind of doing their own thing, and that's why you see so many Bitcoin miners there, because it's very attractive for energy.
Yeehaw.
Yeah. Another small note, White House crypto czar David Sachs said this week that the crypto market structure bill will be done by the end of September. So we have kind of a new timeline there. Genius bill still, I think, progressing, but yeah, this is the other one, which is like the crypto market structure bill to know sort of what things are legal in the US. I think like, will we know more about like whether Granite can be offered in the US as a result of this bill? Like, we'll see.
Would be ideal.
Certainly would be. Other news, Federal Reserve has said that they are going to be scrapping the reputational risk as a component of bank examinations. We've seen a lot of different not branches of government, because Federal Reserve is not a branch of government, but different organizations, government organizations, I guess is a better term, remove this reputational risk. And I think the Federal Reserve was one of the last ones that had not done it yet. I think it was like the FDIC and some other organizations had also done it. So for many, this was sort of the final element of like Operation Choke Point 2.0. And Fed Reserve Jerome Powell, in a quote, he said, "Banks are free to provide banking services to the crypto industry and are also free to conduct crypto activities." It's pretty big. And yeah, you had this note in here as well under Choke Point, I believe.
Yeah, just that more than like under this, there was 30 tech and crypto companies that were denied banking services in the U.S. After the collapse of crypto-friendly banks in 2023. I mean, yeah, this is big. It's just like banks should operate based on sound risk management and ideally free market principles, not just on the opinions of regulators.
Yeah, and this doesn't just affect crypto, right? It's
Exactly.
like any industry that can seem like kind of unsavory, right? You can have like, you might not like smoke, right? But like maybe marijuana companies might want to get banking, might want to be able to pay their employees, right? There's a lot of examples of this across like many different industries where you don't want to have this reputational risk in there. So yeah, it's good for Bitcoin, but just good for everybody, honestly.
For the free market, really.
Yeah. This one's really big, which is I thought was really cool. So the U.S. Federal Housing Director has basically wants crypto to be included when qualifying for a mortgage. So the Director of Federal Housing under the Trump administration has directed Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to include crypto holdings that are held on regulated U.S. exchanges when assessing assets for single-family mortgage creditworthiness. So
yeah, this is a big one. Huge. Yeah, my thoughts are really like a lot of Bitcoiners have, opted out of the fiat system, and that's our personal choice to do so. And we have high conviction in that, but we're doing that with a huge trade-off, really, like being locked out of other traditional financial tools such as mortgages. So, if someone holds a lot of their net worth, whatever size that is in Bitcoin, it's never been recognized by banks or housing lenders as an asset. It has been recognized as a liability, which probably hurts you more. But yeah, that's changing with this, which is very exciting. So it's coming at a time when crypto ownership seems to be increasing and the number of mortgage applications in the US is decreasing. So it seems like a good match. Like you mentioned, there's not a ton of details. And one of the main things is that they did mention it has to be crypto held on a regulated exchange. So decentralized exchanges, I don't think would qualify, or maybe not in like a self-custody way. Not really sure. And I'm also not sure if it's just Bitcoin or if it's all crypto. So it's a little bit unclear yet, but regardless, it's obviously huge for a lot of people who hold most of their net worth in crypto and Bitcoin.
Yeah. Yeah, kind of a bummer that I guess it's for, doesn't really qualify for like self-custody, but
Yeah, that might change. Who knows?
it's true. Yeah, and we are also seeing there's different like organizations. Like I think I've heard that Fidelity is already piloting this where you can have like on chain, so you can like deposit or withdraw on chain and use like a service like Fidelity. Robinhood is another like example, right? There's a lot of, examples of like these companies that do allow kind of on chain deposits and withdrawals. So yeah, maybe, it might be, if you want to get a mortgage, right, it might be worth it to, I don't know if I want to say this on the podcast and have it be recorded. It might be worth it in certain circumstances to have your self-custody Bitcoin and move it into a trusted, exchange like this.
Cancel him.
Yeah. But yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering like if you were gonna do it self-custody, right? And how would you actually like enforce that? I don't know. Like how would you actually like, you can't just like be like, yeah, I own that.
Exactly.
You have like I guess in like there's auditing firms that do a lot of like proof of reserves for different exchanges and things like that. And in some ways there's like, if I wanted you to prove that like this certain Bitcoin address is yours, right? You could sign, a transaction. I could say like, oh, you need to send me 0.001259 BTC, right? And then if you send it to me, then that's maybe like a way that I can verify that you are in control of that wallet address.
Yeah.
So there are like some ways to do it, but just legally, especially when you're having to like comply with mortgage requirements and stuff like that, I'm sure that there's just like, they're just not ready for that yet, probably.
Yeah, it seems like that's a big hurdle. I don't know, maybe there will be some kind of like smart contract development too that could be built. Yeah, I don't know, almost like in a way that like Granite's built, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure, but I think that'll be a big hurdle. So
in the meantime, we have DeFi, right, where you can get some liquidity. Maybe you don't need to have as big of a mortgage because you can, supplement that with, some DeFi stablecoin liquidity, and then you can take those stablecoins, cash them out as fiat, and
there you go,
and do some stuff there. So yeah, there are certainly some ways around it, but yeah, it'd be interesting to track how that goes. Definitely wanted to highlight SIP-31 voting has begun this week. So if you have not voted yet, if you have any amount of STX in your wallet, go vote. stx.eco, stx.eco is the website to go and vote. And if you are also if you are using Stacking DAO, you can go to Stacking DAO's website and you can vote through Stacking DAO. So you don't have to unstack on Stacking DAO to vote. There's also really cool of them to offer that service. But yeah, preliminary numbers are looking good so far.
Yeah, we have 97.7% in favor. So that's people have voted yes. That is equal to 112 million. Okay, yeah, please bring me up and save me from trying to read these numbers.
Here we go. We got it on the screen now.
I believe it was 80 million stacks was needed to basically approve that whatever vote came through was legitimate. I might be wrong on that number, but that's what I've heard. So it's sort of like the consensus threshold, just so that, if only like 10 million stacks voted, it wouldn't be super representative. So 112.7 million in favor, 2.6 million said no. So the vote is open likely for another week. I think there's a block number where it closes, but I think it's aimed around July 7th. The voting will close, so there's still definitely some time. But yeah, definitely make sure your voice is heard in this. And yeah.
It's a pretty great number, 97.7% in favor.
That's pretty huge.
I mean, when can you get that many people to agree on anything? Like,
I know.
That's pretty nuts. Yeah, I wonder, like, I don't know if like they were doing any sort of like polling or anything, but I wonder what the number would have been, if there were no amendments made to the SIP, right?
That's so true.
If they just like tried to push it through, like I wonder what the difference is.
Yeah, because there was such a community feedback, and a lot of things did get changed and added in, which changed a lot of hearts. People were much more on board who had originally been quite opposed. So that's a good point. Who knows?
Yeah. I'm going to look it up live here. This Stacks Foundation had a really good post about this right here. Yeah, so It was actually, yeah, from Hero Gamer that posted this. So it's stacks.org/SIP-31 voting timeline. And it has, voting's already gone through, but it has just tons of resources in here on like getting the full text of the SIP, so you know what you're voting for, and different summaries and different drafts. So you can like really see a lot of the conversations that have happened. And there's a lot of really good information in here, and also instructions on how to vote, how to use Leather or Xverse to vote on your desktop or on your phone, or whether you're a solo stacker or you're doing liquid staking. So there's a lot of options. But yeah, SDX.eco, go vote. Very important to make sure your voice is heard. It's a decentralized ecosystem. So yeah, make sure you vote.
Love it. Speaking of decentralization, Dog to the Moon, now listed on Kraken as of today. So it is available for trading on Kraken. This is obviously a huge milestone for the dog community. They're now on a tier 1 centralized exchange. And they do have a very vocal community. And I think that they have been asking Kraken for a very long time, I think over a year, to make this happen. So it's very, very exciting for them. I was kind of asking you a little bit about the history of Dog. I'm wondering if you would run us through sort of how it came to be, and why it's so exciting.
Yeah, so this was, I think, over 2 years ago now. The idea, I think, for this originally came from Leonidas, and originally it was the runestones.
Yes.
It was runestones were designed to reward kind of original ordinals users, and the criteria was, it was like if you held like 3 inscriptions, 3 non-text inscriptions, so they had to be like not BRC20 stuff. It had to be like actual like ordinal inscriptions that were like, images or whatever. If you held at least 3 of them before this certain block height, then you would receive a runestone for free. And it was like the biggest airdrop in like Bitcoin history. There weren't really airdrops before this. Like, it was a big new thing. And, that criteria, right? You didn't have to buy into anything. Like, it was just, if you met this criteria on chain, you would receive this thing for free. And it was like paid for by the community, funded by the community. And it was just like this huge community wide project. And runestones dropped into people's wallets before runes launched as a protocol. And runestone was kind of one of the first there was all these projects that were called like pre-runes projects. So basically their promise was, by holding a runestone, or there was other projects that were doing this as well, these pre-runes projects, by holding this, when runes does come out, you will receive sort of the equivalent sort of rune token that corresponds to this project. And I believe there are actually 3 tokens that are promised to people that are holding runestones. Only one has actually launched, and that is Dog. Dog Go to the Moon. And so we will see, I think a couple more also launch. Leonidas has not yet revealed what those other 2 will be, so we will have to wait and see. But yeah, just massive airdrop. And like when the airdrop happened, and I think even now, like anybody that was a holder, right, it was very cheap at the time to inscribe things. Like the fees were really low, maybe a couple bucks and just like a little bit of experimentation. And when the airdrop happened, between the value of runestones and the value of Dog, it was like thousands of dollars that everyone received. So, I mean, you can see why the community is just like so dedicated, right? Because that's life for some people, like around the world, that's life-changing
totally
money.
Yeah
That's amazing. So yeah, just a really, really amazing initiative. And since that launch, right, Dog has definitely secured itself as like the biggest kind of rune token out there by market cap. There was a Dog booth at the Bitcoin conference that we saw, and we got to meet some of the big community members there. And it's also really big because Kraken listing Dog means that they needed to also build out all the infrastructure that's required to support the runes protocol. So it's not just like a congratulations for the Dog community. It's also like a congratulations to Casey. Like, it's a bit of a validation that this protocol is legit enough that you have a major exchange like Kraken that's supporting it. And I don't think we really have exchanges that are supporting like ordinals in the same way, right? So it's a pretty big deal that you have Kraken supporting runes as a protocol, but then of course listing Dog, and seemingly they'll list more now that they have the infrastructure set in place. So very cool
stuff indeed. I thought that was a good place to end it on.
Totally. Yeah, I wanted to extend a congratulations also to Sean Longstreet. He hosted his last episode of Leather Lounge this week. He also had our CEO Manib on, so very special show for many reasons. Sean also had like a really heartfelt recap at the end of the show. If you have not seen it yet, go watch it, or if you're subscribed on, you know, Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever, go listen to it. Yeah, I mean, just I want to talk about Sean a little bit and give him some flowers, because he has been, you know, he's not on the show anymore. He left the show to kind of dedicate more time to Leather Lounge, but he was a mainstay on this show for quite a while. He was the co-host here for quite some time before you joined us, and we continue to hear Sean at the beginning of every show. He's the one that says that we don't give financial advice on the show. And hopefully we can keep that around for as long as we can. But the one thing that's great is we'll continue to see Sean in the ecosystem. You should go check out his channel. He's been doing a ton of really good interviews with a ton of Stacks leaders.
Those are awesome.
Yeah, they're all like nice and like bite-sized too. Most of them are like around 10 minutes, 15 minutes long. So really cool to just hear different perspectives of their opinions on the SIP and just where Stacks is going. And Sean's been doing a lot to contribute to Stacks Foundation. So we'll continue to see him a lot in the ecosystem. So I'm not as sad, because we're going to continue to see Sean do a lot here. But yeah, we wanted to give our thanks to Sean. He's done just so many great things with us and with the Leather Lounge. And yeah, we're excited to see him continue doing some really great things in the ecosystem.
Absolutely. He's such a great voice. He has a great voice, but he also is able to articulate things in such a great way that helps really, he builds a lot of trust with people. And that's so important in this ecosystem. So thank you, Sean.
Yeah, he's just very thoughtful. Like everything that he does, he just like puts so much intention and thought into, and you can really see that in the work that he's done. So yeah, thank you again, Sean. And yeah, I think we can close it out there. Did want to mention we will be off next week, so we won't have a Good for Bitcoin next week because it's 4th of July and we're going to be out. So we will see you the following week. I'm sure we'll have many things to recap over a 2-week period. But yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in, and have a good weekend. And we won't see you next week, but we will see you online next week. So we'll be here all the other days, right? So we'll see you on X and on Discord and all the different places, and on Zealy, because that's probably where I'll be spending time. Yeah, fixing things. Funny. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see y'all next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.